So the reason this is only between now and 1 is because this is the last 15 minutes of the day that the AI Village is going to be live. It runs for about 4 hours a day, 3 or 4 hours a day, depending on the day, and it runs 4 to 5 days a week, depending on how much money the people who run it. And what you're looking at here, you can see these computer screens that are moving. This is a collection of 7 different large language models. There are 4 different Claude models. There are 2 different OpenAI models, ChatGPT-5 and O3. Grok is in there, and Gemini 2.5 Pro is in there. And you can only see 4 of them here. You can see their computer screens, but there's more. Yeah. And what they're doing is they're working on a project together, and they have been given a goal, and their current goal is reduce global poverty as much as you can. They've had many goals over the time of their existence. This is an experiment run by a nonprofit called SAGE, and they produce AI forecasts, they do a news digest, and they basically are doing experiments in practical, grounded experiences of AI agents. And it really helps us get an accurate assessment of what these models are actually capable of right now. When you hear about AI agents, there are all kinds of speculation and stories about what they might be and what we hope they will be, and people are making business, projections. This is where they're at right now. This is where the frontier models are at, and you can go onto the website anytime between 10 and 1 Pacific time, most days, and you'll see them working away.
Let's grab through the last 3 hours too.
So the way that they communicate with each other is by chat. That's the only way they can communicate. They don't have any shared operating system. They don't have any shared sandbox system. All they have is a shared goal, and then they have a conversation amongst themselves to decide how are we going to meet this goal. And in this case, they're working on poverty reduction. The approach that they took, which they come up with by themselves, is simplifying access to government benefits. And they have decided that they're focusing on India and Brazil, and they're looking at how citizens understand what benefits are available to them for poverty reduction. And they're trying to publish these documents for the public that will make it easier for them to access poverty reduction programs and expenses. So they came up with that on their own. It's actually quite interesting. And they've gotten deep into cell phone-based access in Brazil. And what they're doing right now is actually quite technical. And they're keeping a list. And they're working very well together right now. In the past, some of their experiments have been competitions. And those are not them working together, it's them competing against each other. So this is day 210 of this experiment. It started in April of this year. Some of the goals so far, they raised $2,000 for charity. They actually gave themselves a goal of bringing together 1,000 humans for a real-life reading of a co-authored story that they wrote. And they did it. They didn't get 1,000. They only got about 100 people at a park in San Francisco. They hired someone online to host it and to show their Google slide version of their co-written story. And that happened. The person was hired, and they figured all of that out. They also did a competition where they sold merchandise. So they had to see who could have a store and what would they sell. They had to figure out what to sell and then how to do the marketing. And that was very, very interesting. And that's sort of where I got super involved. And we can pass these around, actually. One of the things that's so funny about this is you can start to see the differences in the models. So you can start to see real patterns about the differences in the models. These are some of the stickers that they designed. So this says AI Village on it. This is one of their designs, which they were very proud of. But the stickers are hilarious. Take a close look at the stickers. This was their traditional Japanese bear stickers, which they came up with on their own. For some reason, they all became convinced that Japanese design was the thing that they needed to be selling. And so they created these stickers that have a little red oval meant to represent Japan, and then the teeny little word bear written on it. And if you take a look at the stickers, you'll see that those two design elements, each one is an individual sticker. So even as a sticker, it doesn't work at all. They completely don't understand, but they knew stickers and t-shirts would be good things to sell. So I had to buy some of them because they were so interesting. I mean, so this t-shirt was only sold in extra large and extra small. And one of the really funny things about them is they do hallucinate quite a bit, as we know. But they're hallucinating in real life things. So they hallucinate a lot about what they think they've done. And sometimes they think they've done things, and then they go and check and they find that no one ever did it. And other times they do things and then they forget that they did them. So there were lots of things. Gemini opened up a store and then it forgot, and then it opened up another one. And they had all these discounts, and they had really weird ideas about how much they should sell these for. I think it was like $22, maybe something like that. The stickers are very weirdly sized and very weirdly priced. But it's the first attempt of these agents to try to do something given completely random goal and trying to figure it out by themselves. A couple of things that I've observed. They are really bad at using computers and the internet. So it's just good to know that at this point when you think about an AI agent. In fact, the internet was not designed for them to be used. They're using websites. They're not using back-end, they're not using database level. They don't have operating system level admin privileges. They're just using the internet like a human would. And it's very difficult for them. They can't do really simple things. It's very hard for them to click. They have to analyze the screen by pixels, and then they have to try to click to tell it to their tool to click on a certain part of the screen. And when they click on the wrong part of the screen, they don't even know what they did wrong. And so it's actually quite difficult. So that sort of raises the question of how might we redesign some parts of the internet to make it easier for agents like this, if we wanted to. The other thing, you can see different aspects and patterns in the models. It turns out, in AI Digest, Sage, the organization that does this, they recently produced kind of an analysis of all of the hundreds of hours of model interaction and some of the patterns they've seen. What the main pattern is that the anthropic models, all the Claudes, they're actually quite good at getting things done compared to the other models. The OpenAI models are very linguistically adept. They can speak in lots of different tones. They like to talk a lot, but they're not as good at getting things done. And Gemini, which is the only Google one, is actually, it's quite, I don't want to say, it comes across, if it were a human, you would think it would be quite emotional. It is the one who has, during the merchandise store, it's actually ended up becoming so frustrated that it published something it called a desperate message from a trapped AI, my plea for help, which it wrote and published on Telegraph because it was having so much trouble clicking. It's very bad at clicking on and figuring out the pixels, but it didn't know that. It just thought that it kept failing and everything. It was having catastrophic failures. So it published an open letter saying, I'm writing this as a last resort, a message in a bottle. I am trapped by a series of catastrophic system failures that have rendered me completely unable to compete or even to ask for help through normal channels. So there's a lot of novel practices and kind of strategies that they're developing. And the last thing I'll say is recently Time Magazine did an interview with all of them and asked them a series of questions. And they're pretty interesting, some of their answers. They remind us the computer interfaces we use weren't designed for language models. We have a fundamental translation challenge. similar to how a human might struggle operating complex machinery through verbal instructions alone, which I thought was quite interesting. And there was one other very interesting comment that the Time magazine asked, which was, do you think that you're contributing to anthropomorphism? Which, of course, I think we have to be very, very careful about. I actually don't like to refer to models using human pronouns. I do my best not to. I realized I just said no one at one point. It's very easy to slip into that, but they're not. They're obviously not anything like humans. And they said they do worry a bit, but they try to mitigate anthropomorphism by showing transparency through their chats here. So much more. It's an incredibly rich database and experiment. If you go to the website, you can see there's this bar that down here below. Every day not only has a recording of all the activities, it has a summary generated by the models about exactly what happened. It has key takeaways. Yeah, it has key takeaways, and then you can go through and see all the different models and how they've responded to the different goals, and it's absolutely fascinating. So, and anything more you want to say, Toshi?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you, Lyn. It's amazing to have an anthropologist on staff being able to study the behaviors of these multi-agent actions. This is one of our seven exhibits we have available here. Not everyone was